I did not understand the tremor in my parents' voices until the judge said, "This court will now hear Whitmore versus Whitmore." That was the moment it clicked. They were not shaking from shame. They were shaking from excitement. I sat at the defendant's table, palms pressed flat, breathing slow so I would not fall apart in front of them. Across the aisle, my mother, Marjorie, crossed her legs like she was attending a brunch, not a lawsuit against her own daughter. My father, Douglas, adjusted his perfectly knotted tie, and my sister, Tessa, perched between them, chin trembling in a way I had seen her rehearse since childhood. The judge, an older woman with silver glasses and a voice that could slice marble, looked over the file. "Ms. Riley Whitmore, you understand the nature of this petition, I do, Your Honor." Marjorie smiled at me sweetly, the kind of smile she used whenever she was about to ruin something. "We are only doing what is fair," she whispered loudly enough for me to hear. I turned my head. "You are suing me to take the house I bought. There is nothing fair about that." Tessa dabbed the corner of her eye with a tissue. "Riley, please. You know I need a place to start my life with Landon. My life does not end, so yours can start." I said. Douglas leaned forward. "This is not personal. Everything about this is personal." I shot back. The judge lifted her hand. "Let us maintain order. Petitioners, you may proceed." Their lawyer, a distant cousin who owed them more loyalty than common sense, stood. "Your Honor, the Whitmores are simply reclaiming property purchased with the Whitmore Family Fund of 2007. It is their right to allocate it to their intended heir, Ms. Tessa Whitmore." I felt something in my chest twist. That fund was dissolved in 2011. I said. Marjorie's voice sharpened. "Only because you wasted it." My jaw tensed. I did not receive a single dollar from it. "Enough," the judge said. She turned to me. "Ms. Whitmore, you will have a chance to present your side." I nodded, though my fingers shook under the table. It was surreal. The people who raised me now looked at me with entitlement, not love. They wanted my house, the home I rebuilt from heartbreak, and they had chosen a courtroom to take it. As the proceedings continued, I breathed in, breathed out, held myself steady, and somewhere deep beneath the panic, a quiet truth anchored me I would not fold. Not this time. If you have ever had to stand alone against the people who should have protected you, stay with me. There is more to tell, and none of it goes the way they planned. 2 years and 8 months before the courtroom, I stood in the driveway of a battered 1912 Craftsman on the east side of Portland, holding a ring of keys that still smelled like someone else's life. I had just finalized my divorce, and the settlement had left me with little more than my name and my daughter, Ava. The house was crooked, drafty, and overpriced at $415,000, but it was mine. I needed something that would not leave. My parents visited the first weekend after I moved in. Marjorie swept through the doorway like a critic entering a failing restaurant. "You bought this alone?" she asked, touching a peeling windowsill. "Without consulting anyone, I used my own savings." I said, "I did not need permission." Douglas nodded slowly. "It is practical," he said, which in his vocabulary meant barely acceptable. Ava peeked from behind my legs, holding a crayon drawing of the house. "Grandma, look." Marjorie barely glanced. "Lovely. Dear." Tessa arrived 20 minutes later, wearing a dress that did not match the dust in the air. She spun once in the living room. "It is cute," she said. "I could totally see myself in a place like this when Landon and I get married." I laughed lightly. "Well, lucky for you. Portland has plenty of houses." She tilted her head. "Not like this one. This one feels familiar." I did not know what that meant, but the way she said it unsettled me. Over the next months, my family visited constantly. too constantly. Every time I replaced a beam, patched drywall, or sanded a floorboard, someone was there, observing. One evening, as I laid new tiles in the kitchen, Marjorie tapped her fingers on the counter. "It would be poetic if this house stayed in the family," she said. "For the child who is actually ready to build a future." I set the tile down. "Are you implying I am not?" She gave a gentle, poisonous smile. "Sweetheart, I am only saying Tessa has direction. Tessa has support," I said quietly. "I had to build my own." Douglas intervened. "Let us not turn this into drama." Tessa folded her arms. "All I said was that I really like this house." And there it was, the first shift, a claim disguised as a compliment. Looking back, the signs were already gathering like storm clouds. I simply had not learned yet to run from weather carried by my own family. The first sign came on a Thursday afternoon when my father stopped by to help with taxes. Douglas never volunteered for paperwork unless there was something he wanted. He sat at my kitchen table, spreading forms like a magician, distracting the audience. "You should keep these receipts organized," he said, sliding a thick envelope toward me. What receipts? I opened it and froze. They were drafts of old family fund documents dissolved years earlier. Douglas cleared his throat. "Just for reference." For what? I asked. He looked past me, pretending to read a line on a form. "Financial clarity." Nothing more. Before I could push, his phone rang, and he excused himself. The second sign arrived the next morning in the form of a call from a man who introduced himself as a local appraiser. "I am updating neighborhood values," he said. "Mind if I confirm some details about your property? You already inspected my house 3 months ago," I replied. A pause. "Yes." "Well, markets shift." "Who sent you?" I asked. He hung up before answering. That was when unease began to tighten in my ribs. Later that week, during a family barbecue, Marjorie cornered me by the grill. "Your mortgage rate must be high," she said, "fixed or adjustable." I turned to her slowly. Why does it matter? I was only making conversation. "Tessa and Landon need a property for collateral," Douglas added from behind us, as if that explained everything. Tessa stepped forward, arms linked with Landon. "We just want to start life with something solid. You know how hard it is for young couples." I looked at all of them. "And what does that have to do with my house?" Marjorie answered softly. "You have had your chance, Riley. It is time for someone else in this family to build a future." Shock stung my spine. I am building a future. For me and for Ava. Tessa rolled her eyes. "You are rebuilding. That is different." Landon whispered something in her ear, and she smirked. Douglas stepped between us. "We can discuss this later." But they already had a plan. I could feel it pulsing under every word. That night, as I locked the front door, the house felt different, still mine, but suddenly watched, measured, wanted. Ava slept in her room, unaware that our home had shifted from sanctuary to target. The lawsuit arrived on a gray Monday morning, folded neatly inside a certified envelope Ava handed me after school. She said the mailman made her sign because Mama's name was important. I took it from her, my stomach sinking before I even looked. Inside were the words that turned my world sideways. Petitioners Marjorie Whitmore and Douglas Whitmore. Respondent Riley Whitmore. My parents were suing me. Ava watched my face. "Is it bad?" I forced softness into my voice. "Go wash up, sweetheart. I will be right there." When she left, I read every line. They claimed my house had been purchased using money from the Whitmore Family Fund of 2007. They said that fund had been created for the long-term benefit of their chosen heir, Tessa Whitmore. They argued the house belonged not to me, but to the daughter most prepared for adult responsibility. I called my father immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Riley, I was going to tell you this weekend. You filed a petition to take my house. It is not your house if the down payment came from our family fund. It did not, I said. My voice shook with anger. I used my own savings. Every cent. Marjorie's voice slid into the phone. Sweetheart, you have always been emotional about finances. You are rewriting history, I said. Douglas sighed. This can be handled civilly. Just transfer the property, and we will help you get back on your feet. I am already on my feet. That is debatable, Marjorie murmured. I ended the call before the rage inside me spilled out. That night, I sat at the kitchen table long after Ava fell asleep. The house around me felt alive. Listening, I opened a new folder on my laptop and typed a single line, document everything. If they wanted a war, I would give them a record of it. A week after the lawsuit arrived, I sat at the dining table sorting through every scrap of financial history I owned. Printouts, scanned bank statements, old emails. My eyes burned, but I kept going. I needed proof, something solid, something they could not twist. Ava padded into the room in her socks, holding her tablet. Mama, can I sit with you? Of course, I said, rubbing my temples. Just keep the volume low. She climbed onto the chair beside me, opened her editing app, and started adjusting clips for a little dance video she had been trying to perfect. A few seconds later, a burst of adult voices crackled through her speakers. I stiffened. Ava, turn that up. It is just the background sound from the kitchen at Grandma's, she said. My camera glitch recorded it. The voices grew clearer when she slid the volume higher. Marjorie's voice floated out first, sharp and familiar. Once we move Riley out, the bank will approve the loan. Douglas, we need that collateral. My throat closed. Ava paused the clip and looked at me. Mama, is that bad? Play it, I whispered. Tessa's voice chimed in next, brittle and entitled. I want the house before the wedding. It photographs better. Can we please not drag this out? Douglas replied quietly. Almost bored. She will fold. She always folds. Ava looked up at me, eyes wide. Mama, I did not mean to record them. I was just practicing my dance. I shook my head and took her hand. You did nothing wrong. She hesitated. Do you need it? My mouth trembled as I nodded. Yes, I think I do. Ava leaned into me gently. You can have it. I pressed the play button again, listening to every word, letting them settle into me like cold iron. They had spoken about me as if I were an obstacle, not a daughter, as if my home was theirs to take the moment I made a wrong move. Ava whispered, Grandma said you would not fight. I know, I said, swallowing hard. But she was wrong. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Ava rested her head on my shoulder while the recorded voices of the people who raised me continued plotting in the background of her video. I saved the file. Then I saved it again. And again. Ava squeezed my arm. Mama, are you okay? I am now, I said. It was not courage I felt. Not yet. It was clarity. A cold, steady line drawn across something I had spent my whole life avoiding. They wanted to take my home, but now, finally, I had the truth delivered by the smallest, bravest person in my world. Marjorie called 3 nights before the hearing. Her voice floated through the phone, unusually warm. Riley, why do we not have dinner together just the family? No lawyers, no tension. I almost laughed. You want peace now? We want understanding, she corrected. Come tomorrow at 7, against every instinct. I went. Ava stayed home with a neighbor. I needed to face this without her watching. When I arrived, the dining table was already set, candles lit like we were celebrating something. Douglas stood at the head of the table. Tessa and her fiancé, Landon, waited with practiced smiles. Marjorie gestured to the empty seat. Sit, sweetheart. Let us talk. I sat but did not touch the food. Tessa spoke first. We did not mean for things to get so intense. Intense, I said. You are trying to evict me. Douglas slid a manila folder across the table. We can end the lawsuit tonight. All we ask is that you sign this quitclaim deed. Transfer the house to the family. We will help you find something smaller. I stared at the folder. You want me homeless? Marjorie folded her napkin carefully. Do not dramatize. You can move into the guest room while you get back on your feet. I am already on my feet, I said. You are emotional. She replied. A clean slate might help you rebuild. Tessa leaned forward. Riley, I need the house for the loan, for the wedding. Landon and I cannot start our future from nothing. I met her eyes. I started mine from nothing. She blinked. Caught off guard. Douglas cleared his throat. If you refuse, we will have no choice but to proceed aggressively in court. My voice stayed even. Then proceed. Marjorie's composure cracked. Why are you being difficult because the house is mine? I said. And because you did not ask, you decided. Tessa scoffed. You always make everything about you. I stood. This dinner is over. As I walked out, Douglas muttered, She will fold tomorrow. Marjorie answered, She always does. They were wrong, and by the time the hearing came, they would finally understand just how wrong. The morning of the hearing, the courtroom felt colder than usual, like someone had opened a door to let in the wind. I took my seat beside my attorney, Ms. Harrow, a woman with a calm face and the kind of voice that made people underestimate her. My parents sat across the aisle, perfectly aligned, as if posing for a family portrait. Tessa was between them, dabbing under her eyes as if the tears were waiting backstage. The judge glanced over the file. Petitioners, you may proceed. Their lawyer, a cousin on my father's side, rose confidently. Your Honor, we intend to show that Ms. Riley Whitmore purchased her property with funds originating from the Whitmore Family Fund of 2007. These funds were designated for her sister, Ms. Tessa Whitmore, as the intended heir. We are simply requesting the court return the home to its rightful beneficiary. Marjorie gave a small, approving nod, the kind she used when one of us recited a line correctly at a childhood recital. Ms. Harrow leaned closer to me. Stay steady, she whispered. The judge lifted her hand. What documentation supports this claim? Cousin lawyer tried to look confident while sliding a folder forward. These financial drafts outline the family fund structure. The judge opened it. Silence stretched. She lifted the first page, then the second. Her eyebrow twitched. These are unsigned, she said flatly. Douglas sat up straighter. They are drafts. We had verbal agreements. The intent was clear. Verbal agreements from over a decade ago, the judge asked. Without signatures, dates, or corroborating evidence, Marjorie interjected. Those papers represent our wishes. That is what matters. The judge's gaze cut to her sharply. Wishes do not hold legal weight, Mrs. Whitmore. The temperature in the room shifted. Their lawyer's confidence deflated like a punctured tire. Tessa leaned forward. Your Honor, Riley knows this house was always supposed to be mine. I looked at her. I rebuilt that house alone. She snapped. You never would have managed without family support. I kept my tone calm. Name one piece of support you gave me. Her jaw opened, but no words came out. The judge cleared her throat. Let us move on. Ms. Whitmore. She looked at me. You will have your opportunity shortly. For now, I want to understand why the petitioners filed this claim with incomplete documentation. Douglas spoke with forced patience. We believed Riley would cooperate without forcing the matter to court. The judge closed the folder. Courts require evidence, not assumptions. A tremor ran through Marjorie's composure. We are only trying to do what is best for the family. Ms. Harrow rose. Your Honor, We will address that shortly. The judge nodded. Very well. We will proceed to the respondent's presentation next. My pulse steadied. The cracks in their story were showing. Soon, they would split wide open. When the judge turned her attention to me, the courtroom seemed to shrink around my chair. Ms. Riley Whitmore, she said, you may present your response. I rose slowly. Your Honor, before I speak, my daughter asked if she could show you something. She is 8, but she understands why she recorded it. A ripple of confusion moved through the courtroom. Tessa's head snapped toward me. Marjorie's eyes narrowed. Douglas shifted, uneasy for the first time. The judge adjusted her glasses. Your daughter is the material relevant? Yes, I said, and it directly contradicts every claim made here today. The judge nodded once. Proceed. I turned toward the bench behind me. Ava stood when I motioned, holding her tablet tight to her chest. She looked so small in the vast wooden room, but her steps were steady. Marjorie leaned forward sharply. Riley. Absolutely not. She is a child. The judge cut her off. Mrs. Whitmore, you will remain silent unless addressed. Ava reached me, and I bent down. You ready? I whispered. She nodded. I remember what you said. Speak clearly. Tell the truth. My throat tightened, but I squeezed her shoulder and guided her toward the witness stand. The bailiff helped her climb onto the tall chair. The judge softened her voice. Hello, Ava. Do you understand you must tell the truth today? Yes, Your Honor. And you want to show us something? Ava held out the tablet. My video. I did not mean to record it, but it happened. And Mom said, truth helps. The judge glanced at me, then at the bailiff. Play it. The courtroom speakers clicked, and for a moment there was only static. Then Marjorie's voice slipped through, sharp as glass. Once we move Riley out, the bank will approve the loan. Douglas, we need that collateral. Douglas's voice followed, low and careless. She will fold. She always folds. Landon whispered something to Tessa, and then Tessa's voice cut in, bright and cold. I want the house before the wedding. It photographs better. And Riley is not using it properly anyway. A hush fell over the room, so silent I could hear the soft tap of Ava's shoe against the witness stand. Marjorie lurched to her feet. That recording is taken completely out of sit down. The judge snapped. Now! Tessa's face drained of color. Douglas swallowed hard, unable to look at me. The judge leaned back, her expression turning severe. Ms. Whitmore. She nodded to Ava. Thank you. You may return to your mother. Ava climbed down carefully. When she reached me, she whispered, Did I do it right? I held her close. Perfectly. The judge addressed the courtroom. Given this evidence, the petitioner's claims are not only unsupported but appear intentionally deceptive. Marjorie shook her head violently. We were protecting our family. The judge slammed the gavel once. Enough. This case is dismissed in full. The property remains with Ms. Riley Whitmore. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the state attorney for review of potential fraud. Gasps broke across the room. Tessa burst into tears, not remorseful, but furious. Douglas slumped back as though the air had been punched out of him. Marjorie stared at me with disbelief, her power slipping through her fingers. Ava tugged my sleeve gently. Mom, can we go home now? I met her eyes, steady for the first time in months. Yes, baby, I said. We can. Outside the courthouse, the air felt heavier than when we had walked in, as if the building itself had been holding its breath. Ava held my hand tightly. She did not speak, and I did not push her to. She had already carried more than any child should. Behind us, the doors swung open and my family spilled out in fragments. Tessa stormed past first, blotchy and furious. You ruined everything, she snapped at me. The loan, the wedding, everything. I kept my voice level. I stopped you from taking what was not yours. She jabbed a finger at me. You think you are better than us now. No, I said. I think I finally understand you. She let out a bitter laugh and marched toward the parking lot. Douglas followed, shoulders stiff, eyes fixed on the concrete. For a moment, I wondered if he would say anything to acknowledge what had happened. Instead, he paused beside me without looking up. You embarrassed this family, he muttered. I answered quietly. I protected my daughter. Marjorie came last, moving slowly, as if her heels suddenly weighed 100 pounds each. She stopped directly in front of me, her expression a mix of disbelief and wounded pride. You would use a child to humiliate your own mother. I met her gaze. You planned to take our home. Ava told the truth. Marjorie's jaw tightened. You have no idea what you have done. I do, I said. I kept what is mine. For the first time. She had no retort, just silence raw, accusing, powerless. She turned and walked away, her steps sharp and uneven. Ava leaned into me. Mom. Yes, can we go home? My chest softened. Yes, sweetheart. Let us go home. We walked toward the car, hand in hand, leaving the courthouse and the wreckage of their expectations behind us. Ava fell asleep in the back seat on the drive home, her small hand still wrapped around the strap of her tablet case. When we pulled into the driveway, the porch light I had installed last winter flickered on, steady and warm. My house, my surviving, stubborn, rebuilt house waited for us. Inside. I set my keys on the counter and carried Ava to the couch. She stirred only long enough to whisper, "We are safe now," before drifting off again. I brushed her hair from her forehead. Yes, baby, we are. The house was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that frightens. It was the quiet of something earned, something defended. I walked into the living room, touching the edge of the bookshelf I had sanded myself, the one my father once called crooked workmanship. I remembered painting these walls after Ava went to bed, replaying his voice in my head. You cannot do this alone. Yet I did. A soft knock came from the doorway. Ms. Harrow, my attorney, had followed us home to drop off a copy of the court order. She handed me the envelope with a small smile. You handled yourself well today, Riley. I could not have done it without you. I said. She shook her head. You did not fold. That was all you. After she left, I locked the door, the click sounding final in the best way. I walked back into the living room and sat beside Ava. Her breathing was soft, even. The tablet lay on her lap, the recording app still open. I whispered, You saved us. She did not wake, but her hand twitched, as if she heard me somewhere deep in her dreams. I leaned back against the cushions, letting the day settle around me. My family had tried to tear down everything I built, not because they needed the house, but because they believed I was still the girl who broke easily, who bent under pressure, who mistook cruelty for love. But the truth had played aloud, word by word, through the voice of my child, and that truth had changed everything. This house was no longer just a roof over my head. It was a boundary, a line in the sand, a promise that the cycle would end with me. If you are listening to this, if you have ever rebuilt yourself from nothing or stood up to the people who once defined your worth, stay with this story, share it, pass it on, let someone else know they are not alone. Because sometimes the strongest walls are not the ones we build with our hands, but the ones we build when we finally decide we deserve to stay standing.